This is Two Chicks Talkin Flicks, where we review movies. Love them or hate them, someone's got to do it. So enjoy the show. Hi, I'm Sarah. This is Two Chicks Talkin Flicks and anything else that gets in the mix. And I am here today with JJ from This Is the Life podcast. Hello.
How you doing?
I'm great. How about you?
Doing well, thank you.
We decided to do Back to the Future. Is this a movie that you've loved forever or a new one for you?
No, actually Back to the Future is a movie I've loved ever since I first watched it. Mm-hmm. When I first watched it, I couldn't even tell you, it's been so long ago, but the first time I saw it, I fell in love with it. And even to this day, whenever it comes on TV, I'm stopping what I'm doing to watch it.
I have a few movies that are like that. So what is your podcast about? Tell us a little bit about you.
Okay, so This Is the Life podcast started August 21.
Oh, wow.
I might be wrong. Okay, so basically how it started was during the pandemic. Mm-hmm. I was on a friend's podcast, and we were talking, just about life and everything.
Yeah. And
at the end, he asked me, "So what's next for me?" And instead of me giving a I don't know, I was like, well, besides, working, I said, you know what? Maybe I might start a podcast. And he was like, oh, really? He's like, okay, well, we'd love to know about it when the time comes. So after we got off air, he told me, he's like, do you really want to do it? I said, well, it wouldn't hurt to try it and dibble into it. Mm-hmm. And he said, well, if you do it, just make sure it's something that you really want to do. And if you do, if you decide to, I'll help you out, this and that. So I said, okay. So I said, I'm pulling the trigger. I want to get it started. So he told me little things what I needed to do. Mm-hmm. And I'm the type of person to procrastinate. So Same. I procrastinated and he stayed on top of me. He's like, what's going on? I said, yeah, he's like, look, stop playing around and do what you got to do. So long story short, I finally ended up reaching out to a mutual friend that we know that does logos and everything. So I had him draw up. He wanted to know the concept. So I gave him a little concept and he drew up my logo. And the next minute, I have a logo and then I needed, a brand, like, what I wanted to make it about. And that's what I came up with. This Is the Life. And basically, the whole thing about This Is the Life podcast is basically, I like to share things that's happening in life, mm-hmm. everyday life. It could be everyday struggles. It could be things that you may or may not want to hear. Things that's happening around here. Cause I'm from Miami. Mm-hmm. So I talk about stuff that's happened here locally. I may, talk about stuff that happens nationally, celebrity news, you name it. Mm-hmm. Now, I also like to interview what I call people from every walk of life. It could be, someone I went to high school with, or it could be a comedian or, just anybody, mm-hmm. But what I don't want to do on my platform is offend or insult anybody. Mm. So when I say I'll talk about things that people may or may not want to hear, what I mean by that is, you may hear something like, oh, I don't want to hear about that. That's all people think about and this and that. I want to do that. Yeah. But like I said, at the same time, I definitely don't want to insult or offend anyone. Now if they get upset about things that I've talked about, mm-hmm. I always shout it out that they can shoot me a DM or shoot me an email and we can go back and forth, but in a good, healthy way. You know what I mean? So that's what my, platform's all about.
So if you want people to contact you and to tell you what you did wrong on this podcast, where can they do that?
Okay, so like I always say, for people that are shy and they just want to, reach out to me through keys, my email is thisislifepodcast84@gmail.com. And for those that don't mind showing their faces, they can always follow me, DM me through Instagram. My Instagram is lifepodcast_84. Facebook, I used to do Facebook way before, people's grandmothers and grandfathers got on it. So I might be giving away my age on that. So I've stayed away from Facebook. So I'm only on IG.
Speaking of age, so you said 84. Does that mean you're 80s baby?
Yes, ma'am.
Me too. We're turning 40 soon. It's crazy. I know.
Okay,
it's gross.
But you know what? It's funny you say that. I was talking to someone the other day about that, and I said I'm honestly ready to embrace it. It's like I had a great time in my 20s, my 30s. It flew.
Yeah.
So I'm ready to embrace the next step of 40. I really am. And I don't feel my age. Certain times I do, with little aches and pains here and there. But,
I feel you.
But otherwise, I'm ready to embrace it. I don't know how you feel, though, but I'm ready to embrace it.
So when I turned 39, I was like, oh, dang. Next year, I'm going to be 40. Like this time next year, I'm going to be 40. And that's insane because I don't feel 40. Like if I look in the mirror, I don't look 40. I don't feel 40. I feel like I can still get carded. And I'm like, but then I'll look at other people that are my age and I'm like, how are we both 40? Because that doesn't make sense. And so, what had happened is that I decided I wanted to do 40 things before I turned 40. And I too am a procrastinator, but I had started making a list and I had asked other people and I had gone to in January. So right after my birthday's late December. So in January, I had gone to a podcasting convention in Florida. And
I'm sorry to cut you off.
Oh, it's okay.
I'm sorry to cut you off. What part of Florida?
I went to Orlando.
Oh, okay.
And there was a girl that's from Texas because we're both in Texas. And she was also there. And she also was turning 40 this year. And we were talking and she had said that she wanted to do a podcast about being 40. And I said, I wanted to do one about being 40. And I was going to do this list and I was going to talk about it on the episodes. So we decided to do one together. So it's called Flirting with 40. And we have one episode out so far. I've been waiting for Apple to approve it before I release any other episodes. But basically, we're just kind of embracing it. We're just going to talk about things from the 80s and the 90s, from childhood. We did an episode where we talked about going back to school and just like how jazzed we were about like back to school shopping, getting the Lisa Frank pencils and all that kind of crap. Why don't you give our listeners just a brief synopsis, like a 30-second synopsis of what Back to the Future is about?
Okay. Try to do this in 30 seconds. Okay. So Back to the Future is about a teenager named Marty McFly who is friends with this guy named Doc. And Doc decides to build a time machine. And Marty meets up with Doc one night, but Doc is in trouble because he stole petroleum. And Doc gets shot, and Marty gets inside the time machine, which is the DeLorean. It's called DeLorean, and he has to hit 88 miles an hour for him to travel back in time. So he sets the DeLorean to, I think he wants to go back to 19, oh Lord, I forgot.
55?
19 something. Yes, there we go. 1955. And he hits 88 miles an hour. Boom. He's back in time in 1955, and that's when the movie starts. Check it out.
Yeah.
It's very good.
It's a very good movie. I feel like I've seen the movie tons of times. But for some reason, when it started and we had him with his girlfriend and they're like, you know, they run into the principal and all that stuff before he goes and meets Doc. I don't remember any of that. Like him going to Doc's house and playing with the guitar. Like it's rememberable, but I don't really remember watching that. Maybe I just always came in when they started in the parking lot of the mall. I don't know. But for some reason, I was just like, I don't remember most of this.
Yeah.
It's kind of boring. Like that.
It basically starts, because like I said, it has been, because I do, and I recently bought it maybe like a month ago. I finally bought the trilogy.
Oh, wow.
So I have all three. But I know the first one starts where they like start showing a bunch of clocks in the room and everything.
Lots of clocks.
And I want to say, I got to remember myself. I want to say, it shows a bunch of clocks. Mm-hmm. And then I want to say Marty is over at his house or something. Yeah. And he's talking to Doc. And then before he knows it, Doc mentions something about time. And then Marty realizes that he's late for school. And that's when, you know, they start playing the music. And then he's trying to get to school quick. Yeah. And then that's when his principal catches him. He first meets his girlfriend and the principal. Yeah. So that's how the movie pretty much starts. The action doesn't start until probably within maybe after like the first 35, 40 minutes, maybe. I might be wrong. Yeah. Yeah.
But like, I've seen the movie tons of times, and I had so many questions for my sister as we were watching it because she's seen it a lot, but she retained more of it. Because it came out, we were 1 year old when it came out. It's almost the 40th anniversary of this movie. So, like I wasn't very old when it came out, obviously. So I saw it way later. And like John Mulaney, he's a comedian, and he talks about how he rewatched it as an adult and he loved the movie as a kid. And he goes, they never explain why Marty and Doc Brown are friends, like how they become friends.
That's true.
It's a very weird relationship.
Yeah, because when you look into, like, let's say modern terms, okay, I want to say, because they never really said Marty's age. Let's just say Marty might have been, I don't even want to say he was maybe he was a senior.
Yeah.
Maybe junior, senior. So let's just say he's average, 16, 17 years old. Mm-hmm. Okay. Doc Brown. Okay. Doc Brown might have been,
he's either 40 or 80 is what John Mulaney says.
Oh, yeah. They made Christopher Lloyd's character so old. But yeah, he had to have been probably, let's just say, 80 years old. He probably was maybe late 40s, early 50s. You never know. Yeah. So it makes you.
Oh, sorry.
No. I was going to say, it makes you wonder, really, like you said, how did they ever link together? Like, was he a former teacher and got fired? You wonder,
Yeah, it says that he's a disgraced astrophysicist. And I'm like, did we ever find that out? Did they ever say that?
No.
Okay,
no.
I paid attention and I was like, I don't remember them saying that, so I don't know why he says that in the joke, but I was like, they never really give any context as to how these people know each other, but But then we go back 30 years and he looks just as old as he does now, and I'm like, this man doesn't age. He clearly is,
And I hate to see, poor Michael J. Fox now, with his disease. I every time I look at him, I still think of Marty McFly. Right. And I'm just like, wow, he's such, like I said, to me, he was a very great actor. I enjoyed him in that movie as well as other movies, but it's just like, to see him now with his illness, I'm just like, I tell myself, just hang in there, because he's a fighter. Mm-hmm. He's a fighter. But even without the sickness, he still looks good for his age too, because you think, like you said, you're coming up pretty much on the, the 40-year reunion of the movie, and they still look great,
Let's see here. I can tell you how old he is. So Christopher Lloyd is 85.
85. Okay.
And this is almost 40 years ago. So he was in his 40s.
Oh, okay. He was in his 40s.
And then somehow he was in his 40s 30 years before that. But my sister said that it's kind of like a time loop, because I asked her a question and she was like, well, yeah, that's the whole point. They're in a time loop. And I'm like, what? Never heard that part before. So, maybe they're in a time loop. Maybe they're not. I don't know. It's anyone's guess, I guess.
Wait, you know what? Actually, let me see. Back to the Future. Wait, let's see exactly the year, because it's saying the 90s.
It was not in the 90s. It came out in
85.
Yeah, I was pretty sure it was 85.
No,
yeah.
I forgot. You know what it was? I forgot they had a cartoon.
Mm-hmm.
And the cartoon came out in 91. That's what it was. Yeah. I forgot about that, because I watched a little bit of the cartoon on TV. It was like a short little series, but yeah, it's crazy to think it's almost coming up 40 years for this movie.
Yeah, and I've always liked number 2. I feel like that one's more my jam. Because
I will be honest.
They go to the future, and I like the future.
There's out of all 3, mm-hmm. my least favorite is 3.
Yes.
However, I know I bought the trilogy. I'll suck up and watch 3, but 3 kind of like, for me. Part 2, there's certain parts of the movie I'm like, whatever about.
Yeah.
But it's just 1. I just feel like 1, you couldn't touch it. Like 1 was just, 1 was just there.
Yeah.
But I mean, 2 had, like I said, 2 had its moments. Yeah, it was more future. Yeah, that's the thing. Like you said, it was more futuristic. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. 1 is just, it's just the classic. Introduced you to Biff and his mom when she was younger. She wanted to go with her own son. It was just, it was like, okay, But 2, like I say, 2 was, I give it to them. They hit a lot of good futuristics, like for example, you remember the shoes that he wore?
Yeah.
They lit up, the Nikes.
Yeah, I remember those.
Okay. Google. You don't have to do it now. You can if you want. Google how much those shoes are. You'll be surprised.
Oh, they're expensive.
Oh, yeah.
And
they're hard to find. You could still find them, but they're hard at the same time. But yeah, it's going to cost you a penny for those.
And then, just the whole scene where they, when he gets to the future, and it's just like, it's not Times Square, but it's that, feel of down, middle of their town. And you find out that the Cubs won the World Series, and then they actually did win the World Series that same year. It's like, what? It's
when
like
he got that almanac, however you say it.
Yeah.
That's the one thing I liked about the movie, the fact that he had that almanac and he was able to change a whole bunch of stuff with time. But yeah, it was crazy because they were trying to, chase each other around, trying to get it back in their possession. Then it ended up, I think they ended up reenacting, if I'm not mistaken, they reenacted the first one.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, just future stuff, but it was in the past. Yeah. So, is there something in this movie that, like, one scene that really stands out that's, like, your favorite scene?
What, for the first one?
Yeah.
Okay. It's funny, but then, it just shows you how time was. Okay, so it was, let me see. I want to say Marty I think he was getting chased by Biff. Mm-hmm. And then Biff and his friends, were in the parking lot. This was the night when Marty got on stage to perform.
Yeah.
Before his parents kissed. So they were out there running around. And then Biff and I think it was really Biff's friends. Mm-hmm. When they ran into those guys that were performing.
Yeah.
And he made a comment. Well, I can say, I guess I could say the word because, it was in the movie. So he tells the guy, wait, how did it go? Okay, no. I think he ran, like one of Biff's friends ran to like the black guys that were doing the performance.
Yeah.
He ran to their car or something. I forgot what had happened. And the guy got out the car and Biff's friend was like, beat it, spook.
Yeah.
Or something like that. And then they all heard it and they all jumped out the car and he freaked out and he was like, oh, I don't want any problem with any reefer addicts and this and that. He took off. So I say that was the funniest part because he didn't know what to expect. He thought he was just going to be like a one-on-one, but then the guy that was performing came, got out the car, all his other, bandmates, and they, confronted him. But then at the same time, like I said, that was also a crucial part. And I don't know if that went over a lot of people's heads because this was in the 50s.
Yeah.
Okay. And then also in the beginning, the guy, it was this guy, I think his name was Goldie Wilson. Mm-hmm. Okay. Before Marty went in time, he was like I think he was like the mayor of the city.
Yeah.
But when Marty went back in time, Goldie Wilson was working at the diner. Mm-hmm. Okay. So Marty, they were talking when he went in, and Marty was telling him like, oh, maybe one day, you could be mayor. And he's like, wait, mayor? And then his boss was like, oh yeah, that'll be the day, like the first, a colored mayor. Da-da. So that just, like I said, those points right there were my favorite because it just showed that, again, back in the 50s, that was common. Like, segregation and all that was still, that was a hot time back then, So yeah, those moments I really enjoyed watching.
The setting is in California, and in 1955, in California, I believe they had interracial schools. I don't know for sure, but I think they weren't segregated still. But I was just like, oh wow, the mayor or the guy that's going to be mayor. I was like, wow, he's out there talking to him and not working in the back. My sister's like, yeah, it's 1955. And I was like, yeah, Susan, it's 1955. Like, but depending on where you are in the country would depend on, how, if that would be okay or not. Obviously it's not okay to not let them work where they want to work, but it's just, I was just like, wow, they're progressive in 1955 in California, more progressive than you would think at that time.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's why I was saying, that's why I mentioned earlier, I'm sure a lot of those parts probably went over people's heads.
Yeah.
But I'm glad they put that in the movie, because that's something to, you think about. That's like us going into a time machine and going back in time. We're gonna see stuff like that and then some.
Yeah.
So I'm glad they did that in the movie. Really am.
I feel like when we watch movies nowadays that were before 2001, we're like, you can't just like go hug someone at the airport. Like, you can't just walk in there. That's not a thing.
No.
So we have our own version of that. One part that I really like is when plays Johnny B. Good. And then he goes crazy, and they're like, he's like, your kids are going to love it.
Yeah. I remember that part too. Yeah. At the end, when he was like down on his knees, he's like squinting his eyes, and then he opens up and everybody's just like
staring at him,
looking at him like they're giving him that awkward look like, what's wrong with this guy?
Yeah.
And and also remember the part when he goes to his mom's house. Mm-hmm. This is after, like, he gets hit by the car, and then he wakes up, and then they're talking, and he's like, oh yeah, I remember this show. I remember this episode. This is when such and such and such and such. And the dad was like, what do you mean? It's a new episode.
Yeah.
And then he's like, oh, it was a rerun. And I think the brother was like, what's a rerun? I'm like, oh, that's a classic.
So at the very beginning of the movie, this is what my note says: lots of clocks. So how do you think he sank up all of those clocks to be exactly the same time? Like, I feel like you have to be a psychopath in order to get them to be exactly the same time.
Yes. Because listen, that's like, okay, you think about, that's like taking a watch. We're taking two watches that obviously aren't, if I'm not mistaken, analog. I think analog is the one that has the numbers. Okay. So taking a non-analog watch and trying to set them at the same, it's hard. You cannot do that.
No.
You can't do that.
No. And then we find out that Marty is in a band called the Pinheads, and they're going to play for the Battle of the Bands. And then they tell him that they can't play because they're too loud. What rock band
that was wrong.
Is not too loud?
Yeah, that to me, that was just wrong. I mean, come on. Like, think about it. First off, it's for the dance. Second, if you're a rock band, you're not going to be playing classical music volume. I mean, come on. Should have gave him a shot.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's Battle of Bands. Look, that's what it's for.
Yeah, because when I watched it the first time, I'm like, okay, I like it. Boom, boom, dun, 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 dun. And then like, oh, it's too loud. I'm like, oh, player haters, man,
And then we have the lady who's trying to save the clock tower. And this is when I turned to my sister and I said, so did they already go back in time? And that's when she said, they're a loop. And I was like, what?
Uh-huh.
So it's already happened. Like, how many times have they done this? It's very Groundhog Day. Maybe that's how Doc has his fortune, his family fortune. Maybe he's just done this for years. Who knows?
Yeah, like I said, it had a lot of key moments in that movie. It really did. That's why I really enjoy watching it. And then it brings you some nostalgia back, things of how things were in the 80s. You know.
One thing I noticed is that the mall parking lot, when he, Doc asked him to meet him there at like 1:15 in the morning or 1:18, and he shows up. They have nothing but room or nothing but like parking lot by that mall. And I asked my sister, I said, do you think that's why they now have all those barriers and like curbs and like trees and stuff so people can't just, drive through a mall parking lot with ease and get up to 88 miles per hour?
Listen, and I thought about it. Okay, where were his parents? Listen, at 1:15, if my child has to go to school the next day, you need to be in that bed sleeping. You ain't going to meet nobody. No 1:15 in the morning. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Don't care who it is.
Well, his mom's drunk and his dad's, aloof.
Oh yeah, I forgot. Yeah. So they ain't no telling where they were.
Yeah.
Passed out or something.
I think I found a goof in the movie. So he asked him to film the dog taking off, right, and going to the future. And then when the dog comes back, he no longer is recording. And then all of a sudden, when he's asking him to look at the stopwatches, he's recording again.
Mm.
And I was like, huh.
Interesting. That's a good point.
Yeah, I was like, okay, now your experiment is wrong because he didn't get that on video. And
I didn't think about that.
When they go back in the future, or when he goes back in the past, 1955, and he has the camcorder in the car, he plugs it in at Doc's house and they watch it. How did they watch it? They didn't have VCRs back then. How did he plug it in? My sister's like, well, he's smart. He probably had a plug. I'm like, but where did he plug it in on the TV?
Yeah, seriously.
And how did they hear it? Like, okay, maybe they could have watched it, but like, how did they hear it? Just something seemed wrong in that. And it's not like he had the plugs for the camera. So where'd they find the plug? These are things I think of about when I watch movies.
Really, that's something to think about.
Yeah. So he said, Doc says that he's going to go to the future and get 25 years worth of World Series winners. And I said, foreshadowing the next movie, because he doesn't actually get to go and do that because he gets shot. So he doesn't want to find out any information because he doesn't want to ruin anything. And yet he's going to steal all the World Series winners. But then in the second one, when Marty tries to steal the almanac, he gets mad at him for stealing it, right? And in this movie, when he's in the past, he doesn't want to know anything because it can ruin and shape their future. And I was like, so why does he say he wants to go 25 years in the future and get 25 World Series prediction or winners? Because that doesn't sound like Doc at all.
No.
I mean, obviously he couldn't do it because he gets shot, but that just seems really weird for him to say, but he doesn't want to know anything about the future. And in the other one, he doesn't want things about the past. So what are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's kind of weird. Yeah, it makes you wonder, like, why do they go back and forth like that? Hollywood has their thing, but it really has to make you wonder, like, I don't know, to me, it's connected somehow.
Yeah.
1 and 2, like I said, 1 and 2 are so intertwined because, like I said, there are certain parts in part 2 that went back and referenced the first one. So that's maybe like, that's my take on it. Yeah. They did that to piece everything together because obviously 3 has nothing to do with 1 and 2.
But, it doesn't.
Yeah.
So when they're in 1955, now I never had these as a kid. Did you ever have moon shoes?
No.
Okay.
I didn't.
Do you know what they are?
Oh, gotta remember how they look.
So
should I Google them?
Well, you can, but they're basically like, it's like this thing that goes around your shoe, and it's basically like springs. So they're like tiny shoe trampolines, is how I would describe them. But you're supposed to feel like you're walking on the moon because you're lightweight. And
no.
So I know they were like super popular when we were kids. So somewhere in the 90s, and they've come back now. But in 1955, when they're in when Marty first gets there and he's looking around the little town and, people are moving about and whatnot, there's a kid and his dad, and the little kid has on moon shoes, but they're like an old school version. You just see him like hopping down the street. And I was like, oh, that kid's on moon shoes. I didn't know that was a thing then.
No, yeah, I didn't notice that.
Yeah. I never noticed that either. I've seen this movie plenty of times and I've never seen that before. And I was like, oh, that's so cool. But yeah, next time when he's first gets to town and when he goes to the diner and he runs into his dad, it's that scene. But before he gets to the diner, there's a little kid with moon shoes just like bouncing around.
Okay.
I didn't know they were out then, but here we are.
Okay. Don't think about it.
So his dad's a peeping Tom, and that's real weird.
Oh yeah.
Like he just sits there with his little what are those called? Things, and stares through her window, and that's creepy. But apparently a lot of boys do it because they've been hit a lot.
To me, that was something probably common back in the day.
I guess.
Like I said, to be popping up at someone's house in a tree with binoculars. I feel like a lot of people did that really like literally back in the day. But now we call them stalkers.
Yeah.
And back then, really, that shows back then that was an everyday thing. There was no such thing as stalking. But like I said, now you do that. You can do it through various ways. You can ride by the person's house. You can stalk them on social media and everything. But you see somebody in a tree doing that now, you're gonna be trying to call somebody, like, hey, this person needs help. But I think that saying was very popular back then, peeping Tom.
Yeah.
And now you might hear someone say it like an older person, oh, that's a peeping Tom. But otherwise, really, you don't hear that type of talk anymore.
No. But we have his dad is a peeping Tom, and then we have Biff, who is an asshole, and Lorraine does not like him and his advances, and he just does not get the hint. And I don't understand why he thinks that's okay.
Wow. That's very relatable in today's world. Listen, it's very evident if you try to press up on a woman and she's rejecting your advances and trying to reject you nicely, but you still pressing. A lot of guys do that, and I simply just respond. I'm like, look, there are millions and billions of people on the planet. Why waste your time on just one? Exactly. Like, again, they could be the best in your eyes. You may think they're the one for you, but if they're telling you, listen, if they're giving you subliminal messages and everything that I'm not interested, Keep it moving.
Yeah.
Because like you said, he's just making himself look like an ass at the end of the day.
Yeah, I don't get it.
You know?
Like I religiously listen to Dateline, 2020, 48 Hours, whatever. And almost every single time it's a husband that kills his wife because he doesn't want to deal with her anymore, or she cheated on him, or they're getting divorced and nobody can have her. It's just like, dude, would you rather be in jail or divorce her and find somebody else? Like, why is killing someone the answer for you? It just, something wrong with you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Something wrong with Biff. I don't get his problem. I also don't like that I think he's slightly attractive when he's younger. Biff, he's kind of a jerk. I have very mixed feelings on Biff.
Yep.
But I will say Leah Thompson is fantastic in this movie. She is able to give like those little like doe eyes really well. Like they sparkle when she sees George McFly when he stands up for her, and just the look that they both have in the movie is perfect. And she is really, really good. I don't think people give her enough credit, but she's a great actress.
Yes.
And I think he did a good job too, being George, being awkward, and he's actually 3 years younger than Michael J. Fox, and he plays his dad, which is interesting. And I never really, oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I never really thought that he looked younger than Michael J. Fox, but when they're sitting at the cafe and they meet for the first time, I was like, wow, he really does look so much younger than Michael J. Fox.
You know, I like the story of them because you would expect, let me say this the right way. Most people would expect the hot, popular girl to go with the guy that people fear, people don't like. But she chose average guy, head on his shoulders. I like to call him smarty arties, but he was a smarty arty. But he got the baddest chick at the end of the day.
Yep.
Really? and Mr. Biff walked away with nothing. That's how you end a good love story. You know, really.
Yeah.
He got, and Biff had to work for him. That's how it's supposed to be.
It's a great turn of events because, you know, the George McFly we meet at the beginning is not the George McFly that he becomes. And I think the relationship between Marty and George really blossomed because he got to know a little bit more about his dad. And, you know, he didn't know all these little nuances and things about him. And it took meeting him as a kid to see where he's coming from and to gain a little bit more respect from him. Because it doesn't look like he respected his dad prior to going back to the future. Very much like Kevin Hart when he talks about how his dad got beat up in front of him. And he goes, I just lost respect for my dad because he got punched. And, you know, it's important to respect your parents and to get to know them and to understand these things about him. You know, ask questions. It's so weird to me when people are like, I don't know anything about my parents. How are you around them and you don't know them?
Exactly.
Like sometimes I'll find stuff out about my parents and I'm like, how did I never know that? I've literally been with you for 40 years.
I know, right?
How am I just now finding this out? Like, that's why long road trips are great because you get to learn that kind of stuff.
Yes.
Or when you're trying to hook your parents up after your mom tries to sleep with you, you know? You learned so much about your parents. I hate when she says that it's like kissing her brother. How do you know that, Lorraine? Have you been kissing your brother?
Yeah.
Who haven't you kissed in your family, Lorraine?
Yeah, I was thinking about that. I was like, I don't know, unless maybe she, they've kissed on the cheek or something, or I don't know, or maybe playing around, she kissed him on the lip. I don't know, but it makes you wonder.
Yeah, I think it's because, she just meant there was no feelings there. So it was like kissing her brother.
Probably so, yeah. It was like, yeah, kissing my brother.
But she said it in a weird way. Like she's practiced that. I like that she drinks and smokes, and she still does that in 1985. But she's like, oh, I was a good girl. Lorraine, you were kind of a hoochie. She's like, I never chased boys. BS, Lorraine, because you were all over Calvin and his clients.
Oh, yeah. Calvin. Yeah, I was like, his mom was a wild child.
Right.
Yeah. She was a little wild child. And it's like, it's a good thing he backed off because oh God, then that would have messed up the future and then some.
Yeah. That's weird.
Because you think that's her kid. She has no idea, but he knows. And yeah, that just would have been a big catastrophe.
I mean, how does that mess with you in the future, knowing that your mom had the hots for you?
Hots for you, yeah. It's like, ugh.
Oh, gross. Weird.
Like,
That has to mess with you at all, I think. And then one other thing I noticed is when they're at the dance and George and Lorraine are together, but then that redheaded guy steals her away and he starts laughing. It reminds me of the redheaded crazy kid from Toy Story. And that's all I could think. And I was like, I've never noticed that before, but he laughs just kind of like him. It's very creepy.
Uh-huh.
And if this is a loop, wouldn't he know that he was going to run out? Like, wouldn't Doc know he's going to run out of gas and like make sure he has gas in the DeLorean?
You talking about in the beginning?
No, I'm talking about when they go to the clock tower and his car almost dies and because he's run out of gas. And then when he gets back to the future and they're about to shoot Doc, he's out of gas again.
He's out of gas again, I know.
Yeah. And it's like, if you're on a loop and you've done this before, wouldn't you have like written yourself a note to like get gas?
Like, but then remember, but I think that's why he had the petroleum. I don't think the DeLorean ran on regular gas. I think it was mostly dependent on the petroleum. I think, yeah, because that's why those people are after him, because Doc stole the petroleum from them for his DeLorean.
See, I thought it ran on like urethane or whatever that stuff is, because when at the end of the movie Doc comes to his house and he puts the banana peel and the beer and that little,
that's because he went into the future. Yeah, that's because he went into the future.
Oh,
yep,
so
that's why.
Been there, okay.
Yep, so that's why he said he just used whatever to fill up.
Got it. So confusing.
I'm looking it up now. I'm curious.
I like how he says, where we're going, we don't need roads. And then he flies away.
That right there, I knew it was going to be a part 2.
Yeah. That's true. Is there anything else about this movie that you really like? Any other parts that stick with you?
So I liked how Marty was starting to phase out.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Because remember he carried the photo of his family. And remember if at certain times, if he didn't get his parents to kiss, he was going to fade away. He was going to disappear.
Uh-huh.
And I don't know if you remember that. So there was a part where he was on, this was before he did his little spiel. When he was on stage playing the guitar, he started phasing out, like his hands was disappearing.
Yeah.
But then when he saw his parents kiss, he came back to life and the picture started popping back up on the photo.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you noticed that.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was another key part I enjoyed because, like I said, you're able to see how, again, he went back in time and he literally, that's what you call writing the page in history. And if, let's just think that if he didn't get his parents to kiss, he would have disappeared and history just would have rewrote itself all over because in the future, his parents were together. But if he would have altered the future, it would have messed everything up, you know?
Yep. So it's a good thing he was able to get those two crazy kids together.
Yes.
And convince his dad to write books.
Yeah. That I did like. Because remember, like I said, when he did go back to 1985, he did change some stuff a little bit.
Yeah.
Because I want to say for one, he wanted that pickup truck. When he was back in regular 1985, before he went back in time, he didn't have the pickup truck.
Yeah.
But when he got back, he had the pickup truck.
Mm-hmm.
And Biff, like I said, Biff was working for his dad. So it was, like I said, those little parts, I'm glad they did do it. I'm glad that he did change a little bit, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he made it so, Biff is now working for him because George did all of his homework. And then when they were working, he did all of his work as well. And I love how the principal always says that his dad was lazy. And I'm like, his dad is doing everybody's homework. What are you talking about? His dad's lazy. He's weird, but he's not lazy.
Yeah, lazy is an understatement. He was not lazy.
No.
I said he was a smarty arty in school.
Yeah. Very strange guy, but
yeah.
I wouldn't say lazy at all.
Oh, no. Mm-mm.
Now, Marty might be lazy, but...
Oh, yeah. Marty looked like he was your average B, C student, just barely trying to get by.
And there's nothing wrong with that, you know? Sometimes people don't peak in high school.
Oh, yeah. No. Absolutely. You know, but you could tell Marty was that average student just trying to get by. Not saying he was, getting bad grade, but he was that type that he was just getting by, because he was trying to hang around Doc so much and be with his girlfriend. So like an average kid, know, you want to be with your girlfriend and be with your friends,
And I think it's weird. Don't they recast his girlfriend in the second one, or is it a different girlfriend? So I'm pretty sure
it looks like it looks like a different one.
Yeah, because it's Elizabeth Shue, I believe, in the second movie, which I always forget that it's not her in the first one. And so when I saw the girlfriend, I was like, that's not his girlfriend.
Yeah, it was a whole different one because to me, the one in the second one, she looks older than the first one.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Agreed.
Yeah, if you ever get a chance, look at that. They look so different.
Well, is there anything else about this movie that you love or hate or want to confess your feelings to?
No, I didn't really. There were no parts I really, hated. pretty much, to me, named all the good key parts. We pretty much gave away pretty much the whole movie.
Well, that's what we do here. We are not a spoiler-free podcast. We spoil everything. Okay. And honestly, it's been almost 40 years. If you haven't seen the movie by now, you're probably not going to.
Exactly. Because, there's no excuse.
Yeah.
Well, other than that, we named some real good parts.
Well, we review this movie and we do it 1 out of 10. And if we do it, so like, let's just say you wanted to give it a 6 out of 10, pick something from the movie. So it'd be 6 out of 10 peeping Toms or whatever you might want to say. So what would you rate this movie?
What would I rate it out of 10?
Yeah.
I'm going to give Back to the Future. And I just want to be, be politically correct because I don't want to be biased because the fact that it's one of my favorite movies. I'm going to really give it, it's hard to give it a number. You know what? I'm really feeling an 8 out of 10.
All right. I take that.
Because now do I have to justify the 8 out of 10?
No, you don't have to.
Okay. What would you give it?
So I would give it probably, I would say an 8 out of 10 biffs. 8 out of 10 biffs.
Okay.
I enjoyed the movie. I think it's a lot of fun. I didn't enjoy it as a kid. So I've recently, in like the last 10 years or so, have embraced it and have liked it. But I definitely enjoy number 2. So I feel like I need to watch that soon because I enjoy that one. Apparently I like future instead of past, which is weird because I'm more of a 80s kid, love 80s music, 80s stuff. But in the Back to the Future realm, I'm pro future.
Okay.
So, where can people follow you and listen to your podcast?
Okay. So, my podcast is, it's all over. Okay. But my main sites I'm on, you can find me directly on blog talkradio.com /This Is a Life Podcast 84. You can find me on Spotify. You can find me on Google, Apple, iHeartRadio. And I know I'm missing a few others. I think I'm actually on Amazon as well.
Oh, that's good. So on all the platforms.
Yes. Pretty much all the major platforms.
It must be nice. I'm still waiting on Apple for my other podcast.
Why you don't know why they're taking a while for you to get on?
So I guess I tried it too many times because it seemed like it was working. And so I had to go in today and do some archiving of the extra ones and just keep one. So they said give it 24 hours. So I'm waiting till tomorrow afternoon to see if it clicks it into place. And
hopefully you get it,
I've been dealing with this since early July. So who knows? But if anybody wants to tell me their favorite parts of this movie, you can find us at Two Chicks Talkin Flicks at Gmail. And you can find us at Two Chicks Talkin Flicks on all platforms. Unlike my other podcast, we're everywhere. So, and until next time, toodles. This episode was produced by Two Chicks Talkin Flicks. Music was produced by Michael Girvani. If you like this episode, please like and subscribe. If you'd like to be a part of the show, have a movie suggestion, or just want to give us some love, you can email us at twochickstalkinflicks@gmail.com. Thanks, guys. Toodles.